Section 7 deals with inspections and maintenance. So the first question, 7.2, it asks, is there a process that defines the responsibilities for all employee levels in the formal inspection process? Notice the emphasis on all. I've noticed in the past, or from doing audits, that a lot of companies do not list what the responsibilities are for the senior manager. So it's not necessary, but responsibilities for the inspection process should be listed in Section 7 because they may be different from the responsibilities listed at the beginning of the safety manual. They're not always the same. And note that all levels have to have written responsibilities. So if you have 4 levels in your company, you've got to have responsibilities written for all 4 levels. So a possible answer for question 7.2, and again, this is just an example, but you'll notice that all 4 levels are addressed. You'll see, for example, the HS representative is addressed as well. Workers are addressed. Supervisors and managers are addressed, and then lastly, senior managers are addressed by saying they will review inspections. So the wording can be whatever is customary to your company, but it's critical that you just have the heading so that you can see that workers, supervisors, managers, and senior managers all have responsibilities listed in Section 7. For question 7.5, it asks, is there a system to correct deficiencies identified during formal inspections? So because this question says during formal inspection, it implies that you need to look at your completed inspection forms rather than looking at policy. And the 3 criteria are listed here. And so those 3 things have to be listed in your, or shown on your inspection forms. So make sure you have those 3 criteria available in there in your completed inspection forms. And then question 7.9 asks, is there a preventative maintenance program? From my experience, and only from my experience I'm speaking, this question usually and typically scores 0, and the reason is there's 4 criteria and you can see them listed there. And a lot of companies, they provide an inventory of all the equipment and vehicles that require maintenance. And so typically 1 out of those 4 criteria is met just by having the inventory. Secondly, you must provide all the schedules of maintenance from the manufacturer for each vehicle and piece of equipment. So most companies cannot or do not supply these, and so you're still left with 1 out of the 4 criteria. But if you do have all of those available, then you could score 2 out of 4 so far. Satisfies legislative requirements means what exactly? It could mean if you require CVIPs, do you have the CVIPs? And if you do, then include those. And then either 2 or 3 criteria could be met in this particular instance. And then the last one is satisfies manufacturer specifications. So again, if you don't have the schedules from the manufacturer, then you cannot satisfy this criteria. And then in order to satisfy this criteria, you've got to supply the documents, and only the documents that show that the checked off items on the schedule are being met. And a brief history of each one is helpful. So for example, if you have 3 months of oil changes showing it was changed at the specified intervals or hours or kilometers, for example, then the next item on the schedule provide 3 months worth and so on. And if you can't provide these, then again, it's not going to be a criteria that's met. It's a lot of work to put together all this documentation. One of the things you do not want to do is provide to the auditor a whole bunch of documents and hope like heck the auditor is going to go through and find stuff. That's not the way it works. You've got to organize the stuff for the auditor and make sure that these criteria in the question are being met. So that's why it's critical to provide only the documents that show what the checked or circle marks or whatever it is on the schedule of maintenance. Just provide those forms to show those things are being met. And then lastly, question 7.11 is often scored in relation to this question. Both of them usually score 0 points. And because this question, you have to have a minimum 70% in order to score. So if you've only met 2 criteria out of these 4, it's a 0, if that makes any sense.